Good evening and welcome once again to this week's episode of It's My Turn Now. Well, we were not here on last week, and so we are back again today. It's like it's been so long. Just been a week since, been 2 weeks since we were on here. And 2 weeks ago, we were dealing with the subject of women being brought up without a father in the home, which I think is a very serious subject. We're not going to deal directly with that, but we're still dealing with issues of the family because I think it's important that the church will actually address issues regarding the family. I don't think, from my experience, and you can let me know what your thoughts are, but I really don't think that churches really address family issues. We talk about a lot of things in church, but we don't deal with family issues. I think family issues is very important uh, to rearing our family, to family togetherness, family unity. I think all that's important. We need to address that. If we deal with families, as they say, as the family goes, so goes the church. And so I think there needs to be more emphasis placed on the family and church relationships. Sometimes you have people in the church and they're not getting along. Husband, wife are not getting along. They're sitting up in the church, and sometimes, unfortunately, sometimes we have leaders in the church. There are leaders in the church but not getting along with each other. And so these are some serious issues that have to be dealt with, and we need to deal with them in the church. We need to be diligent about dealing with these issues in the church. So that's why, my hope is that as we want you to invite your friends, invite your family, let them know that It's My Turn is on the air now. Still trying to go public each week. It seems like I have a difficult time trying to get it to go public, but hopefully we'll be able to get it to go public. I was trying to do it on my iPad, but for some reason it did not did not work. So I'm going to try one other thing. So I want you to bear with me. Again, invite your friends, share this with us. Others, let them know that It's My Turn is on the air. Let them know. So. And let me know if you're able to see the program, because for some reason I'm not able to see it on my phone. Normally, when I see it on my phone, that I know that you're able to see it. So give it a little more time. Again, we deal with another subject dealing with family matters um, and how it pertains to church. Um, just ask me, if you don't hear it, when was the last time you heard your pastor speak about families or any type of issues in church, in the sermon, in a Bible class, in a seminar? Just let me know, when was the last time you heard that, because I just want to know, am I on track or what? Okay, if you're on here, give a comment. Let me know that you're on here. I said 2 weeks ago we talked about women being raised in the home without a father. I received a lot of positive feedback on that. When I say positive feedback, number of people shared with me what their thoughts were, and they felt that some people shared with me thoughts that they didn't feel comfortable discussing on the program. And I tend to get that quite a bit. A lot of times people will just share with me things that they don't feel comfortable uh, sharing on the program. And that's okay. Uh, but, as long as we're getting the word out, as long as you are watching the program and you're getting something out of it, I think that's so important that you're able to get something out of the program. Again, I'm trying to go public, and I'm not sure if it's on public. So if you're on here, leave a comment in the comment section to let me know that you're able to see it. Um, I was dealing with some of the statistics. There are some interesting statistics regarding families, and when I begin to think about those statistics regarding families, is quite staggering. Um, the number of statistics that we're dealing with. Um, it says, according to the Pew Research Center, between 25 to 30% of children under age 18 in the United States live in a single parent household. The U.S. Census reported that roughly 22 million children live with a single parent, and 3 times as many women, when compared with men, head these houses. So these are something we should be aware of, and I think that affects the church, affects the dynamics of the church. Um, Look, I was also dealing with the current divorce rate, and I'm going to go ahead and deal with that later on when we deal with the current divorce rate. If I can get this to come on, like I said, I'm not, for some reason, not allowing me to go public on here. So, and there are a lot of times I had individuals try to get on, but they say I couldn't get on because it wasn't public. So I'm trying to get it. Sometimes my computer, my iPad, sometimes they act kind of strange and won't let me come on. So we'll see again. If you're able to if you're able to see me, please leave me a message, leave me a note to let me know that you're on there, because otherwise, and normally it allows me to go public, but it's not allowing me to change to go public. So it may not go public on tonight. And so if you're able to leave a comment, please leave a comment. Let me know that you're on here, because I'm not seeing it on my computer. So if it's not public, then that means that whoever's on here may not be able to see it. So we'll get it eventually. Nope, it wasn't public. So hold on just a second. Think. Okay, there you go. Finally got to go public. Thank you, Shirley Walton. Shirley says, praise the Lord, everyone. Shirley shared. Thank you for sharing. Glad you're able to make it. She wasn't even getting on. I don't know why I have such a difficult each week in trying to get it to go public, but for some reason it's a challenge. So as I was saying, um, 2 weeks ago when we were on here, we talked about challenges of young ladies being reared in a home without a father. And that's a challenge. Then we talked prior to that. We talked about men being reared in, and at some point we need to talk about homes where we have a lot of men now that are raising their children. So at some point, maybe we can discuss what it's like to be brought up with, without a mother in the home. There are a lot of men that are raising their children. We live in a time now where mothers are abandoning their children. And so these are problems and these are issues that the church needs to address. When we think about the amount of divorces in the church and talk about relationships and families, wonder how many families go to church together as a family. How many of you get together around the kitchen table and have those family meetings and those talks? That used to be pretty important. Families getting around at the kitchen table discussing issues. But now we have a lot of families that are at odds with each other. Sometimes mother against father, father against brother, and brother against sister. And so we know that that's a trick of the devil to be divisive to the family. He wants to destroy the family. He can destroy the family. He can destroy the church. So I think church has responsibility as we address matters that deal with the family. There are a lot of issues that are just not addressed. I think if pastors would sometimes preach about things across the pulpit, that husband love your wife, that's biblical. You're not throwing off, wives love your husband. There are things that can be said and done. Not only that, we as ministers and pastors and leaders in Christian church, we have to model the family. And so I remember some years ago, I went to a church and a preacher had five children, and he was driving a Corvette. So he lived close enough to the church, I guess, that he could walk, but he chose to drive the Corvette. And you already know 5 kids can't get in a Corvette. So now his wife is walking, and he's driving a Corvette. Somebody tell me what's wrong with that picture. See, sometimes we have to make sure that we're examples. I think pastors need to talk to their parishioners and say, hey, if you're going to be a minister or preacher, evangelist teacher, you need to be an example. And if you're having issues with your family, try to work on those. Try to work on the issues. Don't just allow things to go on the way they are. If I'm a Christian, I have a problem in my marriage and my family, then I'm going to address that. I'm going to address it. You can't go ahead and preach over it and like nothing's going on, but you have to address it. Charity begins at home. You got to start at home. You got to be an example at home, because what happens is sometimes people lose respect for ministry if they see that mom or dad are not getting along together, but yet you're preaching, you're talking about the love of God, and that's not going to work. You have to be example. And if it's not working, you have to ask, so why is it not working? Now, I've heard people say that any Christian should be able to get along. That's why we need premarital counseling. I encourage people. I had someone the other day ask me, will I perform a wedding ceremony for myself? I do not perform a wedding ceremony without premarital counseling. Now, have I done in the past? Yes, I've done in the past. Will I do it now? No. If you like me to perform your marriage, you know, I do at least 6 weeks premarital counseling, because there's always areas that need to be dealt with. They're not dealt with. You have to deal with finance, you deal with relationship, deal with emotion, deal with child rearing. There's so many things that couples don't even talk about before they get married. Churches, you know, are we going to go to the same church? We're going to go to a different church, just so many issues that, I remember I had a couple in my church. They were excited, young people. They said, uh, we want to get married. I said, great. I'm glad for it. Good. You want to get married? Good. I'm all excited, because it's really good, because a lot of people, they aren't getting married. Even in the church, some people who say they're Christians, they believe it's okay to shack up. Tell me what you think. Do you think that maybe you're a Christian, maybe you feel like it's okay to just live with somebody? See, some people believe that. They may not be honest about it, but I've talked with people, and they'll tell you we living together, but we Christian, we love the Lord. You know, and so I had a couple. They wanted to get married, so I said, "Hey, great! I'll be glad to perform the ceremony, but we got to do marriage counsel. We don't need no marriage counsel. We in love. We love each other." And I said, "Well, I appreciate that, but I don't perform wedding ceremonies, unless I do marriage counsel. But we don't need it. We don't." So they got mad at me. They left the church. They got upset because I wouldn't do it. And so, unfortunately, they weren't together 2 months before they had split up. Now, had they taken the time to do pre-marriage counseling, that I'm not saying they wouldn't have broken up, but certainly I don't think they would have broke up within a month or two. Uh, so far, I think most of the ones I've done pre-marriage counseling, I guess I'm betting 97, 90%, maybe one or two people, uh, you know, divorced. But I think that gives you a better foundation. And so what happened was, they broke up about two years later. One person came back to me and said, Bishop, you know what? I really wish I had listened to you. I wish we had done pre-med. But most of us, we think that we know it all. We think we know it all. However, now, when I was coming out, we didn't have premarital counseling, but the church addressed the family. We had what they call brotherhood. The brothers would get together, and they would meet with the brothers. Sisters would get together like the fourth Friday of each month or third Friday each month, and we would talk about relationship issues. And I listened to men talk about those men who were experienced. They talk about their relationships, and so that helped me. And so we need a forum like that where younger men can hear, because they need to know the responsibility. There's some young men that don't want to work. how are you going to be a husband and don't want to work? You know, you're a husband, you don't want to work, and now you look up and now you got kids. You can't take care of your wife, can't take care of yourself. How you gonna take care of your wife and now you have kids? And now you got financial strain on yourself. And now you're talking about divorce, and maybe because it's the finances, and it's because you have not prepared yourself. And so there has to be preparation when you're thinking about getting married. There has to be some preparation. It has to be some preparation. Um, so the churches, people are not getting married. You don't hear as many weddings as the year when we were coming up. You know, folks is living together, and dare I say, folks is honeymoon before they get married. Pastor Bishop, are you talking about in church? Yes. And maybe somebody I'm listening to. I don't know. Maybe you know somebody. But people are honeymooning before before the wedding. And so they don't have the incentive anymore to get married. You know, we were taught when we came up, hey, you wait till, some things you wait until after you're married to experience. But now, we have some pastors that will condone it. They will tell you, say, hey, it's all right. If you want to try it out before you get married, it's all right. I don't know. But do you hear that in the church? Or do you hear someone say it's not okay? So I mean, if someone says it, you need to hear it. But if they don't say it, the lack of not saying anything may make a person feel like it's okay. So what are you, if you don't hear, let me know. Or do you hear about marriages and relationships in the church? And so then we talk about family matters. We got some playboys in church. You know, you got a lot of young boys. They just they just want to. They're not spiritual, and they want to be playboys. They want go from this girl to that girl, and no commitment. So there's a lack of commitment in relationships. There's some people who will get married and with the intent, say, if this don't work out, if this don't work out, I'm gone. But you can't just have an intent, say, if this don't work out, I'm gone. You got to be you have to be willing to be committed and say, you know what, if what I'm doing now is not working out, first of all, I'm going to try something different. Secondly, if not, I'm going to try to get some help. See some help from your pastor. Now, every pastor is not a therapist. So every pastor is not, I'm going to say again, every pastor is not qualified to counsel you. Some pastors have problems with their own marriage. And so, and to be honest with you, there are some therapists that have problems. And so, but they have the tools to give you. I guess they say, don't do as I say, do as I do. I knew one therapist, I guess he was married 3 different times. But I guess he's saying, don't do as I do as I say. So, definitely there's problems with marriage. There's definitely a problem in the church when it comes to families. Uh, Families are having problems. Families are divided, and nowadays it used to be time everybody went to the same church, and now you have this member going to this church, this member going to church, one husband going to one church, a wife is going to another church. And I would say this right here, and maybe a lot of pastors that may not agree with me, but I say this right here. I will not fellowship one person in the church. Now, hear me, so I want you to hear this right, because they'll say, "Oh, he said this." No, I will not fellowship a wife or a husband in a church without at least communicating with the other person. Now, you heard what I didn't say I wouldn't do it, but I think you should have that conversation be met with the other person. They should be a part of it, because for the most part, even if they don't go to the same church, at least they want to know something about the pastor. I had a military couple in my church, and the husband was in the military, and because the nature of military, they travel a lot. But the husband told me, said, "Pastor, you're the only pastor I ever had that I respected, because I show respect for him um, as the head of the house." See, it's not my job to usurp any man's position in the home. I'm not going to do it. Never thought, never would do it. My job is to minister and to teach and instruct and help those individuals to make better decisions, to make wise decisions. And so that's what I attempt to do. I try, and because also as a marriage and family therapist, gives me a little extra understanding of the inner working and dynamics of relationships. So as I see relationships, and maybe because I am a marriage and family therapist, that I understand the value of it. Because people don't understand, people leave church and they're going through it, man. There are people going through it, and I don't like to cuss, but some people are catching hell at home, and catch it from the person who's leading praise service. Sometimes the person who's preaching. Somebody as a preacher, somebody say amen. Somebody say amen because that's the truth. And we have to be honest about it. We have to be honest about it. And there are situations. So I think that churches should have more seminars and things like that. And I applaud the churches. My wife and I, we do relationship seminars, and we've done a number of church. Matter of fact, I'll be doing a seminar this weekend. But I think we have to be aware of it. We can't just turn head the other way and act like there's not a problem. And folks is fighting, cheating is part of what's going on. But some folks is cheating, have multiple relationships, and no conscience. Folks in the house fighting, husband, wife physically fighting. That's a problem. We have to listen. It's no sense in us acting like our church is perfect and there's no problem. So here's what we have to realize. When a man and woman are having a problem, by the time they come to you, it's just about wrap. They just are basically telling you, hey, we're going to split up. So if we can address those issues ahead of time, talk about them in the church, talk about forgiving, talk about loving, have seminars in the church where you address those situations. Family relationship, brothers and sisters. We got Cain and Abel spirit, got brothers and sisters and can't stand each other in the church. How can a brother and sister love the Lord and hate one another? I would say, how can you say you love God whom you haven't seen and hate your brother who you have seen? It's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. You got to understand that you got to learn how to love. If you have a problem loving, uh, your spouse, your brother, your sister, whoever, if you have a problem, that's a problem, and you need to ask God. These are matters of the home. And if I've been hurt and I've been wounded, maybe that's the reason why I'm having a problem. I've got to say, Lord, help me to address the wound, help me to address the hurt. Because if I want to get to heaven, I've got to be able to love. And yes, there are some hurts that we experience that eat at our core. But God can help you to deal with that hurt. There are individuals who parents have hurt them, whose mother have wounded them, whose father have wounded them. But we got to ask God to help us to deal with that. You've got to be willing. But see, unless you have someone who's talking about those people, someone carrying a dialogue in the church and talking about this issue, then the issues go unaddressed. And so we wonder why some of the church is not growing because the family people are not coming to church. The families are not coming together. Families don't have that cohesiveness, that unity where the family wants to come together. And then sometimes come to church, and one person on one side of church, one person side of church, because they don't have that desire to be together. So what can we do? If you don't have the desire to be with your family, then you need to pray, God, help me to work this thing out. And maybe a process. When you've been hurt, it's not easy to get over it, but you can deal with it. One of the things, therapies that I use is called emotional focused therapy, because sometimes there are some people, when it comes to emotions, they've been hurt and they've been wounded and they have negative emotions. So mother, father, sister, brother, and we address those emotions. God bless you, Lady Rachel Brooks. How do you counsel a couple where only one member wants the counseling? That's a good question. It does make it difficult, but if one person wants a counseling, you have to meet that person where they're at. And many times, there are a lot of issues. There are a lot of things at play because sometimes when you deal with that one person, they can find some challenges or things that they can do. Say, for instance, if a wife, and I'll say a wife and a husband, if a wife has a problem with her husband and husband is wanting to come, and we start talking to the wife and we analyze what's the problem. Well, when he does this, I do this right here. So if I can get her to focus on some of her negative behavior, then that's going to change. But you can't make a person come who does want to come. However, I have counseled a number of couples who the husband didn't want to come. The husband came kicking and screaming, did not want to come. But guess who stayed in the therapy longer? Now the husband, I had no idea it would be this easy. And so if a person really wants to if a person really wants a healthy relationship, and I'm convinced that a lot of people do want to have health. There's just a lot of hurt, a lot of anger. People have been hurt. You can say things. This is also a good question. Good question. That's a very good question. You know, people can be hurt, and you can say something to a person who uh, 5 years ago, and sometimes people have a hard time shaking things. When I first got married, my wife and I, we had some challenges. I'm trust we had some challenge. It seems like every Sunday night when we go to church, this is like probably the first year we got married. Like we get an argument about every Sunday night. I don't know why. Somebody said, "Well, why did that happen?" Well, it was the devil. We know what it was the devil, and it was that adjusting period. She's adjusting, I'm adjusting, but it seemed like right as we go to church, and then I said, "You know what? I ain't going to church." The devil, devil make you think I ain't going. You argue. I said, "No, Lord." I said, "I'm going to church because I need to go to church." See, sometimes you need to go to church, get the word, and many times, again, if the preacher is preaching the gospel, you don't have to actually preach on marriage, but you can preach on relationship, talk about the closeness of God, the love of God, and that will cause people to analyze themselves. Am I being loving? Am I being compassionate? Am I being caring enough? But that's a good question, Rachel. Many times, you work on the one person, and if they see a change, because here's what I've had a lot of clients say, well, you know, they'll want to tell the other one, say, well, he said, you go first. You're the one. And they always think the other person needs the counseling, not me. But many times, if that one person will come and they will listen to it and they begin to change, then the other person will see the change. And many times, because that they see this becoming effective, then that will cause them to want to come as well. If they want a good relationship. Okay, let me see. Rebecca Graham, praise the Lord, blessings and love to everyone. Thank you. God bless you, Sister Rebecca. And so, you just may need to get some counseling to help you to deal with it, to help you to better cope with what's going on in relationship, and help you to identify some triggers. There are things that may trigger the other person. And here's something else that's important when it comes to relationships. uh, we are a product of how we were raised, and we're not raised the same, and some people have different value system, and so these are some of the things that you find out in premarital counseling. What's your value system? How do y'all handle conflict? You see, this is Rachel. Would you encourage their decision to divorce without meeting with the other? No, you know what? I don't. That's another good question. No, I don't encourage. I've never encouraged anybody to divorce. I felt that they should divorce. Now I'm gonna be honest with you. There are couples that are just not healthy and they don't need to get divorced. But I would never encourage it. I always tell the person make your own decision based upon the fact, because what happens is people look for a scapegoat. And so if you say, what do you think, Pastor? What do you think, First Lady? You think he's terrible. You think he should do? Well, no, no. Uh, you pray about it. You ask God what to do. And so it's their decision, because down the line, uh, believe it or not, they will blame you and say, well, I listened to my pastor. I've had to listen to my pastor. No, your pastor may have supported what you have told them, but you've got to be willing to say, you know what, you have to make your own decision. But I would encourage them to do all they can, and if they can, you know, if they can get both people together, because as they say, there's two sides to every story. I mean, when I first started counseling as a pastor, I mean, I had one person came in, man, they talked about the other person terrible. I said, oh my God, it's terrible. And I'm thinking, man, this is the worst person I ever that ever met. And then I had the opportunity to talk to the other person. I thought, oh my God, they was the nice person, but their stories was different. So then I get them together. And so when you get them together, you look at them eye to eye and you address those issues and you find out that the truth will come out. So I think it's important to somehow encourage the other person. I don't know how you can encourage the other person to come, but if you can get both people in there. But again, I never forget. Someone was telling me that Bishop Golder, Grace Apostolic Church, Bishop Golder had a couple in his office, and all of a sudden they broke out fighting, and somebody was shedding blood. So you have to be careful. Sometimes pastor has to be careful and to understand: do I have the skills to do the type of counseling? Because some situations are deep. They are so deep that it's beyond your skill, your pay level, and so that's when you have to refer to a therapist. All right, Brother Jerry. Hey, Bishop, a strong church can provide some tools to help struggling couples. That's so true. But Jerry, it's good to hear from you. I haven't heard from you in a long time, Deacon Jerry. That's true. Churches now, especially many of the larger churches, are gearing toward the total wellness, well-being of the congregation. And so we need to focus on the totality, mental, financial, because sometimes people need financial counseling in the church. People need financial counseling because some folks don't know how to handle money. That's another. So when I'm talking about family matters include finances. They told us when it's going to say no finance, no romance. And I cannot tell you how many marriages have been destroyed because of finances. And you just have to, it's always one person that likes to spend money and one person likes to save money. And if you can come to a common consensus when it comes to finances, because you can go broke real quick. And no, when you're broke, they say no finance, no romance. When you broke, you ain't feel like cuddling with nobody. You ain't feel like hugging nobody, nothing. And so some men need to understand that there's a financial responsibility when you get married. And I know we have folks saying, well, the women, there's women making more money than men. And I ain't mad at you. There are women that make, and the sad thing about it is that, again, know who you are marrying. Because I've seen couples, the husband gets mad because the wife is making more money than him. Now, I'm telling you, I ain't getting mad. Sister Walker can make as much money as she wants. I'm not going to get mad at her. But there are men who are insecure. And because the wife makes more money than him, they feel threatened, or the wife has a higher educational level, they feel threatened. But we have to realize that in a family, you're a team. One builds the other, one strengthens the other. Whatever she's able to put in and we put it together, it just makes the pot that much stronger. But when you see this person doing this and that person, and you not recognize us as a whole and as a couple, then that becomes a problem. You got to understand that you have to be a team. What happens if those who watch basketball? What happens if player don't pass ball summertime? Now Kobe Bryant, God bless his heart, Kobe was known for not passing the ball too much, but he did pass the ball sometime. Sometimes you got to learn how to work together. You got to be a teammate. You can't just try to say, I'm going to do it all by myself. And you have to be willing to give to the person. Then you have to talk about how we're going to raise children. So you got some folks nowadays that I know, some people say, well, matter of fact, I was talking to a family just the other day. We talk to our child. Okay, all right, you talk to your child. And you make sure that you have that understanding with your mate. Y'all talking about getting married, whatever, say, how are we going to discipline this child? Because some folks say, hey, I don't believe in hitting children, spank child. And I'm going to tell you, you have to do what's best for you. I'm not telling anybody to spank no child. I'm not telling, but sometimes you can't just talk to a child. There has to be some accountability, even if you have to punish that child. But some folks don't even want to punish their child. I had one person tell me, one mother told me, I never told my child no. Never told your child no? Man, I said, I wish my mom was like that, dad was like that. I would say, man, no tell them what. Well, no, I wouldn't be here today if they never told me no. I heard no fast, frequent, and often. God bless Sister Treva. Sister Treva says, men want to live beyond their means, talk about money before marriage. So true, and I've seen people, you know, I've seen guys who get, start dating a young lady and they put the best foot forward, which is they'll have the best clothes, the best dress, best looking, and broke. Don't have no checking account, don't have no savings account, and owe everybody and the mother. No, you got to do better than that. You got. We have to talk about this. Ain't no sense in looking good and you ain't got no money. It's best you dress down and put some of that money in the bank. Sister Rachel said, fast, frequent, and often. That's so true. So true. So I mean, I hate to say it, but I've seen it a lot. And so now, okay, now women, we have to have what's reasonable expectations. Reasonable expectations. Um, you cannot see some women have been sheltered. They've had the best home, the best education, the best thing money can buy. So if that's what you want and that's what you're used to, then you have to consider who you're talking to. He may not be able to provide for you like your dad. So no sense you getting upset. Spoiled. Know what you're getting into. If you're not willing to make that adjustment, it's not his fault if he's struggling trying to do his best. You know what you want. If you want a house on the hill, either you're gonna have to be willing to wait on it, pray on it, or something. But if this man's working at Walmart and you want you a $300,000 home, unless he got some money stashed away, it ain't gonna happen. And you need to know that. Listen, don't be so in love or so infatuated that you unrealistic in your expectations. Be real. Don't yes, he can change. Yes, he can do better, but it ain't gonna happen overnight. And so, are you willing to be patient? Are you willing to be? Do you see the potential in him? If the man can't work for you, got married, and he can't get along with nobody, quit his every job, what does he think he's gonna do once he gets married? He got some issues. So these are things that you can um, easily find out when you're doing pre-marriage counseling. Are we compatible? Just because you like a person does not mean y'all compatible. Just because you say, it used to be a time people say, well, y'all saved, ain't saved. No, man, listen. The Bible says in a great house, there's many vessels. And that's all kind of folks with all kind of personalities in the church. There's some people that are aggressive, some people that are passive, some people that are depressed, some people are angry, some people are like to play around, some people don't like to play around, some people are serious. And so you have to know who you're getting hooked up with. If you have aggressive personality and you with somebody that's passive, that might stroke your ego, but after a while, you're not going to be happy with that, and neither is that person who's very passive is not going to be happy with the aggressive person. So these are things that we have to consider. These are things we need to talk about in the church, and just let me know if your church is talking about that. If you address that, if you're a pastor, or you're a minister, deacon, whatever, if your church is addressing family issues, good for you. Just say my church is addressing. If not, that's something you may want to consider. Talk to your pastor. Pastor, we need to deal with some family issues, because whatever you're going through, I guarantee somebody else is dealing with the exact same thing. You're not the only person in the church that's having a problem. It may be the pastor. If the pastor having a problem, he may have problems with his wife. I've seen churches where pastors are having problems with the wife having problems with the pastor. You may want to bring a therapist in, and everybody wins. It's a win-win situation for everybody. You don't have to say, "Well, I'm having a problem, with my wife. Just bring a therapist in. Do a seminar on relationships. You'd be surprised how much doing seminars on relationship helps the church and helps the family. I've dealt with too many couples that were that close to divorcing, and after going through a few sessions and counseling, they begin to start identifying the challenges they had. They begin to start seeing themselves. And sometimes we have to be able to see ourselves uh, from another person's viewpoint. I'm gonna give you an example. And I use this when I'm doing therapy. If I'm talking to you and say, for instance, my wife said, "Let me see, think about something that she says about me that I need to do." Okay, say if she says, "Honey, you need, um, are you listening to what I'm saying?" So I'll reflect. What or am I hearing you say that you don't feel that I'm listening to what you're saying? So we call that reflective listening. See, sometimes it could just be miscommunication. You're saying two different things, and she might say, "No, that's not what I meant," and so it gives her a chance to explain what's up. But sometimes people just hear something, they get upset about, and they respond and react, and they could be wrong. Try reflective listening when you're talking to your husband, your wife, your friend, your boss. So, is this what you're saying? So what I'm hearing you say is this right here. That way, you get a chance to get some clarity to what's being said, because too many individuals get in arguments and they're talking at each other instead of to each other. And when they're talking at each other, they're really not getting understanding because they're not really. Problem is that sometimes when they're talking at each other, they're arguing and they really are arguing about the wrong point. That's not the problem. And so you're going to a tangent talking about something different, and you really have not got a grasp of what they're trying to say. So before you respond, say, is this, I'm hearing you say this. Is this what I'm hearing? Treva says, young people are the ones that need to get counseling today. I have a son who is always borrowing, has a good job. And you know what? Thank you for sharing it. But you're right. The thing about it, Sister Treva, is that you're saying young people need that, but guess what? That's grown men out there that are borrowing money, have a good job. I remember years ago, I had an elder in the church asked me to loan him a couple of $100, and so but if someone, this is what someone told me. This is what my mom told me. Good advice, said, son. When a person comes to you borrowing money from you and they don't know you, that means they done ran out of people to borrow money from. Think about it. If somebody you don't even know borrows money from you and they feel comfortable asking you, wonder why is that they're coming to you. And so I asked the pastor, I said, Pastor so and so wants me to borrow. He said, don't you loan no money. He don't pay back. Had a good job. I mean, 6-figure job. People don't know how about. That's another thing. Family matter. We need to have finance courses. How do we deal with our finances? Always make sure you spend less than what you're making. Sometimes too many people are spending grandiose, want to keep up with the Joneses, and they're spending more money than what they can afford. And a lot of people living off credit. I'm so glad that there are a lot of churches that are teaching people get rid of credit cards. Get rid of credit cards. I'm telling you, I can say now that I don't. Well, credit cards have the advantages, but now I don't owe any credit cards. I use credit cards because what I do is I try to use credit cards. This is something that you can learn in finance management. I use credit cards that will allow me to get frequent miles on airplanes, hotel. Once I get it, put on my charge, I pay it off. And so there's a lot of things you can do, but people are struggling. God bless you. Because I agree, Dr. Walton, the old and oldest need therapy and counseling. Thank you for sharing that with us. But the problem is that we just haven't addressed that in church. And then we wonder why people are not together. We're not addressing that. And we have to. We have to be more progressive in these times we're living in. And we have to be realistic. People are having problems. Listen, even in the best of relationships, there can be some problems in the best of relationship. Jesus and his disciples, the disciples supposed to be men who are carrying the gospel, and they are falling over each other. who's going to be on the right hand, who's going to be on the left hand. People are just different, and you have to understand yourself. You have to understand that, and so we have to uh, make provisions for those in the church that we can deal with these. Maybe if your church can have a suggestion box, family suggestion box. What do you think you would like to see done in this church right here? I guarantee if it was private and people knew that no one would know it, I guarantee you get a lot of responses. You get a lot of responses. Um, Whenever my wife and I do seminars, a lot of times we'll have people write questions, and we get some of the questions. I mean, it's the question we get. I mean, they're serious. I mean, they're serious. Challenges that people are having, um, and they need some answers, and so we try to address those answers to the best of our ability. But some people need some serious therapy, which means, and that's not saying that you have problems and you're mentally ill. No, it's saying that sometimes we need to have the proper coping skills. A lot of us don't know. A lot of us don't know how to handle folks. Some men brought up that I'm right and you be subservient to me, but sister ain't having that in these minds. You got to learn how to come correct. If you don't come correct, she gonna put you in your place. So we got to understand that, hey, what worked 20 years ago is not gonna work today, and we have to be able to make those adjustments to address that. Bishop Paul and John Mark had disagreements and separated for a time. That's true, and so we have to realize, because you fall out with the person doesn't mean you have to harbor anger against that person. They were eventually able to come, but the Bible said, "How can two walk together unless they agree?" There has to find a way to be in agreement. And so, if you focus more on what's not going right in a relationship than what's going right, you are doomed to fail. Any type of relationship, even at your church. If you looking around your church and see this deacon not doing, this mother's not doing, the pastor not doing, that's a terrible way to be. I would hate to be in a church where I'm complaining and all I see is something negative in the church. We got to change that attitude. Sometimes it's our attitude, the way we process our thoughts. We have to change the way we think and what we say. If you see problem, don't be a part of the problem. Be a part of the solution. I say this right here. This is what I always say. Uh, Anybody can blow a bridge up, but can't everyone build a bridge? It takes time, it takes resources to build a bridge. And so there are some people that are quick to criticize and judge, and quick to criticize and judge other people, quick to criticize and judge their mate. But look, when you criticize and judge your mate, look at yourself. Sometimes we have to be able to step outside ourselves and say, what am I doing wrong? What can I do better? One of the things that I think is so important is listening. Listening is so important. That's one of the biggest things. If people ask me, what's one of the biggest problems? People are not listening. Sometimes people are talking before the person gets finished saying what they want to say. You cut them off, and that does a number of things. One, it prevents you from hearing what's being said. Second, it's showing a lack of respect. If I don't care to hear what you're saying, then I don't respect you. If I really care about you, I want to hear what you have to say. Tell me what you have to say. Because if I don't listen to what you're saying, there's no way that we can come together and improve the situation. First of all, I have to understand what you're saying. So I hear what you're saying. Tell me what's on your heart. Talk to your pastor. If you got a problem with your pastor, talk to your pastor. Don't talk to everybody else. Sometimes people talk about everybody else but the pastor. They talk to everybody. Women sometimes talk to everybody but the husband. Husband talk to everybody but the wife. Sometimes men talk to all the buddies about one person. Go to that person. If you have a problem with someone, go to that person and talk to them. Don't tell everybody else about that person. Go to that person and talk to that person. Create an atmosphere, a positive atmosphere. Set an appointment with the person. Say, listen, I need to talk to you. This is weighing heavy on me. Sometimes people, you would think people would know where they offend you. Some people just like talk. They just talk too much. They talk without thinking, and they can offend you, and not even know that they offended you. There's some people that offend so many people that they don't even know. They say anything and everything. Someone said, because you think it does not mean that you have to say it. Sometimes there are people, and that's elementary. Sometimes grown folks, they say whatever's on their mind. You can't always say what's on your mind. Uh, Bishop says, sometimes we are our own problem, not the other person. We need to think before we speak. It's so true. We need to think, because you're thinking it. Don't mean that you have to say everything, and so we have to work on ourselves. Have to work on ourselves. And so here's another problem too when people come to counseling. Sometimes people come into with counseling, but I ain't got no problem. I want the therapist get you straight. No, or they do that in church. I want the pastor get you straight. And so if the pastor doesn't agree with you or the therapist doesn't agree with you, then now if you genuinely want to change, then you'll listen to what's said. But if you don't want to change, then you'll say, "Well, I don't want to hear neither one of them." They're making excuses. And so I had a gentleman that asked me about counseling. His pastor told him that, "Pastor, you need to see a therapist." And so he's trying to convince me, "Pastor, do you think I have a temper? Do you think I need counseling, my pastor?" He's trying to convince me to go with him that to say that he doesn't. First of all, if your pastor feel like you need some anger management, that's the reason why he's saying that. Most likely 9 times 10, I'm gonna say 10 times out of 10. If your pastor feel like if he sees something that makes him or her feel that you need anger management, you got a problem. Sense of that. And so he could talk to me till he's blue in the face. I'm not going to tell you. I said, the fact that your pastor is saying something, I would be concerned about that. And then when he told me what happened, I said, "Sir, yes, you need counseling." But he's adamantly trying to get me to say, "Well, do you think I need counseling? Do you think?" Yes, you need counseling. When you going off on folks and up in people's face and ready to fight folks, yes, you need some counseling. And you a pastor too? Oh yeah, pastor. So people have a problem. But before you can be helped, how in the world are you gonna try to help other people you can't help yourself? You need to look at the man in the mirror. As Mike Jackson, you need to look at the man in the mirror and focus on yourself. If I can work on me, if I can be the best version of myself that I can be, then most likely I can help others. But I have to focus on being the best me that I can be. So when we talk about family matters, there's so many things uh, that has to be addressed in family. What are your suggestions? If you don't hear, what are some subjects that you think that pastors need to deal with when it comes to family matters? And then we say church. When you think about church is a whole family. So not only the married, single folks have problems, and we have to address those issues, not just married couples, single people. God bless us, Tony. Some of the problems with church folks is most of those doing the counseling are not professional counselors. They shouldn't be counseling anyone unless they know what they are doing. That's so true, Mrs. Tanya, because I tell you, until I became a therapist, I thought I was very good. I thought I was good at counseling, but until I became a therapist, I began to realize that what we see it's like an iceberg. When you see the tip of the iceberg, the majority of the iceberg is underwater. It's you only see part of it. And so sometimes pastors and individuals only see a tip of the iceberg. So you have to probe and you have to take time and have the skills to be able to deal with dig and find out what's going on. And so you're right. Some people are not qualified, and that's one thing I like about my former pastor, Brian Johnson. Brian Johnson would tell you in a minute, he said, "Listen, I'm going to refer you to a therapist because that's not my area of expertise." Listen, a pastor doesn't have to know everything. This is my philosophy. I don't have to know everything as long as I know the source or how and where to go to get the information that I need. That's so important. Too many times we think the pastor and folks in the church have to know everything. Listen, the pastor is not a mechanic. Now you may happen to have a pastor that happens to be a mechanic, but that's not his trade. The pastors don't need to be trying to change your transmission. And so we expect too much from a pastor, and we have to know uh, our limitations. there's a thing when it comes to the medical field says do the patient no harm. When you're operating outside of your capacity, you are doing your member an injustice. And so I think it's good to bring in people, bring in financial counselors. I imagine a lot of pastors would take a survey, anonymous survey, and ask how many people are having financial issues. You'd be surprised. Some people have never been taught how to finance money, how to handle money. Some people get money. I've seen people. I know an individual would get paid, put his money in his pocket, and just spend this money out and never put anything away. And that then he once he was broke, he was just broke. That's not good financial management. You have to have a plan. Someone say either plan to fail or fail to plan. If you fail to plan, you might as well plan to fail. So these are things that I discuss in pre-marriage counseling. Um, Financial planning, where you at right now, where you want to be a year from now, where you want to be a month from now. You know, and individuals need to set personal goals. If you don't have to be married, you single. Where am I at right now? Where do I want to be next year? Look at listen. It's not that difficult. Say for instance, I'm just using a hypothetical. If you make $50,000 a year, and all your debt is $100,000 a year, and see here's something that people realize this is free no charge. When it comes to credit cards, I remember before I got married, I had credit card, but I never used it. I saw the interest on my credit card. I thought that was a one time interest. That was the interest for that month. And so what I did, I wrote down all my bills, wrote down all my monthly payments for those bills, and wrote down the interest. And so when you add up interest on every credit card, and your interest on your credit card is 40, 50, $60 interest, if you can get rid of that, just think how much money you're going to save. So I start paying stuff off. Boom, 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 paying stuff off, paying things off. You got to have a plan. We need the church to be more successful. And then, Pastor, if people have a good financial plan, then you may have people are able to contribute more to the church. You know, sometimes people have to be. Now, listen, I'm gonna say this right here. This somebody may not like this. I believe in paying tithes and offerings. That I believe in that. But there's sometimes everybody's not able to give above and beyond tithes and offering. So if you're struggling to pay tithes and offering, pay your tithes and offering. But if you are struggling financially and you want to give $1,000, you have to ask yourself, can I afford it? Am I going to borrow this $1,000? It'd be better not to borrow and pay interest, or just give a little bit extra. Pass, I can't give 1,000, but I can give 100. I can give $50, because a good pastor doesn't want you to go broke. You know, spending above and beyond your means. A good pastor not gonna want that. And so you cannot allow yourself to spend beyond your means. If you do, then that's a problem. And then too, if you in a house, and you and your spouse in the house, make those decisions together. Make financial decisions together. And one person doesn't have the right to go out and get a car and not tell the other person, guess what I did? I got me a car. No, that ain't gonna work. Business, people need to learn how to take business. There was a good friend of mine who had a business years ago, and we made agreement. I sold real estate, and he was very good at what he did as business. So I said, I'm going to front all the money. I'm putting all the money, and I'm going to take care of the real estate business. And so he said, that's good, because he was good at what he did. He calls me up one day and said, guess what, Bishop? I said, what? He said, I found us a building. I said, that's good. I already signed a contract. So I'm saying, how in the world are we going to go into business? I'm supposed to be handling the business aspect, and you're going to sign a contract without me? I said, no, sir, that's not going to work. So that was the end of that partnership. But you cannot enter into a contract. You should not enter in a contract without checking your partner. Don't do it. Make wise decisions. But again, hey, I hope you've enjoyed this week's episode of It's My Turn Now. I appreciate each and every one that comes on here. I appreciate every comment because the comments are outstanding. And whatever question you had, I'm sure there's others that had the same question. Don't forget to share this. Share this because I get a lot of comments. I get a lot of feedback inbox for people who are I don't see on here, but they're watching and they say, well, I just didn't want to give a comment, but feel free to give a comment. Let me know that you're on here. Let me know what your thoughts are. If you, even when we go off, if you feel like that you think that your church should have courses in relationship, courses in finances, subjects dealing with family matters, write it down and say, I think it would be a good idea, because your pastor might see this right here. He may realize, that it needs to be done. But if no one responds, then no one really knows the importance of it. So we get enough people to say it needs to be done, then hopefully it can happen in your church, or maybe you can initiate it, because there are all kinds of people in church. There are people who are financial advisors in a lot of these churches, accountants who know how to account money. Sister Robin Poole, I haven't seen her on here tonight. She's normally on here almost every week. She's an outstanding accountant. I mean, if you need some questions to deal with finances, then she's a go-to person. So many churches are equipped. As Brother Jared said, there are a lot of churches that are equipped and they have the resources. A good leader is going to utilize these resources. So if we're going to deal with family matters, we need to empower people by making sure we put in place those things that can be a benefit to the body of Christ to make us all better. Listen, we run out of time. We love you. God bless you. Until the next time. Until the next time, you be blessed. Be encouraged. Love everyone. Love your family. Love your friends. Ask God to give you a loving spirit. Some people don't have a loving spirit, and we got to ask God. And some people have been hurt. Don't let that hurt. Don't let that hurt spoil you. They say one bad apple won't spoil a whole bunch. One rotten apple will affect the whole bunch. So one negative spirit, negative seed can affect your spirit. Sometimes I feel if the pastor and his wife don't have a good and loving relationship, they are not equipped to be counseling others. That's true. So they may want to get a therapist in for the whole church, and because one of the things as a therapist, when my wife and I do seminars, it draws us close together, because uh, there can be some things that may come out that might be something small. I said, is that's the way you do? And so it becomes kind of comical. But in doing that, we are addressing our own stuff. So everybody benefits from it. Everybody benefits from it. So I enjoy counseling. Like I said, I have doing a seminar this weekend. I enjoy reaching out. It makes a difference. A healthy family is a healthy church. People are dealing with depression. They're dealing with anxiety. All these are matters in church. What do you do? What do you do if you have someone in your family that's dealing with depression, dealing with anxiety? What you have deal with your family, you have to deal with somebody contrary. I mean, the people have a lot of problems, and these are areas that can be addressed. And I guarantee, if you address those, it'll make a big difference. Sometimes if you address those, it'll make the pastor job a lot easier. A lot easier. Sometimes pastors have people who may not like their wives. So sometimes, pastor has to show love to his wife, so people know that he loves the wife. If they think that he don't love his wife, they say, well, hey, he may be open to something else. And same thing with the wife, and husbands in general. You got to protect your family, even when your family. If somebody talk about somebody in your family, you don't justify anybody that's doing wrong, but say pray for them. Don't let somebody cause you to talk about somebody in your family. Support them, love them. Yes, they got the faults, but pray for them and say, hey, will you pray for them with me? Think about that. That's my negative today. Love you. God bless you. We'll see you possibly next week. But Lord's will, you be blessing me.